So today I'm going to talk about what I believe to be an effective way of taking mid control on Mirage. This is going to be for a team, and it's going to start with the default and hopefully end with one player being left in connector and one player being left in ladder room. So the way I think is most efficient to do this is to have one player at A. So at the beginning of the round he'll come, just use some light utility just to hopefully draw out some smokes or nades from the A defenders, so that if you do hit the A site, then there'll be less objects stopping you. Basically there'll be easier ways to get into the bomb site. So he's just going to be holding down a ramp, watching this area, also being aware of a potential palace push, but generally just holding down this area, using a little bit of utility but making sure to save his smoke just to draw up some of the enemy utility, and just holding this position. Another person, likely an AWPer, will come to B just to hold up a B from any potential pushes. Again, similar to the A player, just holding, maybe using some light utility, some flashbangs over the roof or something, just to draw out some of their utility so they'd be weaker if you did hit the B site, or if they tried to retake on A, they'd have yet less utility to do so, or just improve your chances in the round. So that's going to be the two extremities of the map covered. And now we're going to move to how the mid take is actually going to happen. So firstly, two players are going to go top mid, and these two players are going to cross using this top mid smoke, just the standard one from the bin. I'll show you just in case you don't know. Top of this bin, right to this antenna, throw that smoke. This would likely be from the B player to throw, because the A player's smoke is more important if you do decide to execute on A. So the B player's smoke is just going to be used as top mid smoke, and two players are going to cross. The first player is going to smoke window and going to line up a flash ready for connector, so that his teammate that is going to go under, the last mid player of the three, can peek connector and hopefully get control of it. So let's move on to the under player. The under player is going to be holding this position, trying to work his way up here. As he's coming through B, he has to be aware of potential window drop to hold this position here, potentially pick a player in his position off, so he can just use a right-handed flash or something like that, just to make it a little bit safer because he's peeking into this angle, clear this out, and just get ready to be flashed into connector. So the underplayer's job is going to be to try and get into connector and then hold rotates if the team goes to B, or to then split onto a site if his team goes to A. So he's just going to be holding this position with a smoke up in window here, not peeking until the flashbang comes in. The top mid player is then going to throw his flashbang. This lineup has slightly changed since the old version of Mirage, but it's still as simple. You come into this corner, and instead of aiming at the X, you just aim in the middle of the wood at the same level as the X. Just going to throw a flashbang. That is then going to blind anyone holding this angle, so that the underplayer can peek and get an easy kill onto anyone holding that angle. After that's happened, he's just going to smoke top connector, and is just going to get into connector, making sure, importantly, to walk up on the right side of connector, so that anyone short holding an angle like this can't see you. They have to swing out this wide to be able to see you. Although this is likely going to be smoked off anyway, it's just an extra precaution to take, just in case someone decides to walk through the short smoke or something like that. It just makes you that little bit safer. The second top mid guy, as this top mid smoke is coming down, is going to be using it as cover to throw a Molotov into connector. The way I usually line this up is I just run along this wall until I can see the top of this line, and I know that the nade isn't going to bounce off this wall, and I'm just going to throw a Molotov. This will then land in this position and basically deny anyone who tries to peek this angle. This Molotov is good because it will likely then push someone back into a position like this, or just to leave connector entirely, so that when they're in this position they're exposed to the flashbang that's going to be thrown later. So that Molotov will come in first, around the same time as the window smoke and the top mid smoke. Once that's down, this player then is going to make his way through the smoke only once the window smoke is down, and he's going to help clear connector when his teammate decides to run up into it after clearing that left angle. So they're both going to swing on this angle at the same time, because obviously top of connector is going to be smoked. And then his job will just be to get into ladder room, so he can use his own smoke, just bouncing it off the curve in this wall. I usually aim around the top of the B sign, but just running anywhere. It's not a specific lineup, it's just a rough smoke, and can let you quite safely, with a connector smoke and a window smoke, to get into ladder room. So now we've had the setup. We've had 4 smokes used to get mid control, and we have one person in ladder room and one person in connector, hopefully, given that no one gets traded or no picks come out from the CTs. But this is just the ideal. So let's go down into the round breakdown. So let's say, for example, that the player in under gets a pick on a player in connector. The general setup of the CTs is that there'll be 2A, 1 mid, and 2B. Usually 1 short, 1 connector, 1 window room, and then 1 player anchoring each bomb site. The mid player, the in-game leader, can then call from this mid connector player being taken down to hit the A site. So the B AWPer can come and rotate back, the mid player can come and rotate back, and they can all come out the side A, where then the A player who has the 1 remaining smoke can just have a standard CT smoke with flashes, either something close like this or just something that lands far, and then him and his 2 other players can run out A with a player in connector, knowing that there can only be 1 on the site, either CT or in a close position. This can also be mollied out quite simply, just clear another angle, or potentially even flash over stairs for the connector player who will be hiding in an angle like this or like this, to then peek out and get kills on anyone stairs or jungle trying to stop the A hit. So that's one way of playing it based off of a connector pick, is that you know A is going to be the weaker side of the map, although there will likely be a player in jungle who will be the original window player. Come into this site, just take the site practically for free because there's only 1 player, and in a 3v1 if the trades are even half decent, then you are going to win that engagement and take the site. The then ladder room player can use his position to cut rotates from short and cut rotates from window room, and with a player in connector, that means that the only place that the CTs can come from is CT itself, which can be flashed into through the smoke once the bomb is down, or they can come from a full flank from B all the way through T-spawn, which 1 player can just hold an angle from an off angle like this or something like that. So it's a pretty safe way of taking a site. It's a very different look on how to take a site. It means that the CTs aren't just going to be expecting standard hits where you throw the 3 standard smokes out onto A. They have to be afraid of connector as well, and potentially a split onto the A site. And vice versa works for B. Say for example that the B AWPer gets a pick on this angle when he's holding a passive angle like this because someone gets aggressive. That means there's only 1 player in the B site, and potentially he's up short if he's seen all the presence mid. So the A player, the mid player, and the short player can all push into B site, having obviously, you can wait for the rotates to come in so you don't have to immediately capitalize on the pick, but you know that the B site is going to be weaker for a certain amount of time before the rotates come in. So the AWPer can either come and try and get a second pick onto another person. It means that the short player that's in ladder room can try and get a kill on the short guy, knowing then that the B site will be completely clear if he does get one. And then that means that the connector player can just hold rotates from the A site and flank them into market. So those are the most standard picks. Obviously if there's a pick on B, you can head towards B within a certain amount of time, and if there's a pick towards A, you can head towards A in a certain amount of time. This will obviously change based on how long you take to get to a site before or after you get the initial pick, because obviously rotations will come in. So if you imagine the map in your head, if you just look at the top left corner, what generally happens, see if I can, I can't see it in the escape menu. What generally happens is that once there's a pick onto B, the mid player will then rotate into market, and the short player will likely fall back and look towards B as well, or if he feels that his market player has it, he'll continue to hold short. So if there is a pick onto B, those are the positions you can likely expect after a certain amount of time. So let's say, for example, it takes this window player, who would likely go jungle because he'd be smoked off from this position, so he'd hold palace or something like this. It would take him 5 to 7 seconds, maybe 10 at most if he's taking his time, to get into this angle. So that means that the B player has 10 seconds to set up and potentially get another pick on B before the rotates are in. That's quite a long time to react to that. It also means that the short player also then has 10 seconds as well to try and get up into this angle to potentially get a free kill. If he hasn't made any noise getting into ladder room, and the short, they know that there's a player playing short, once the B pick comes in, this player is likely to turn around in only a few seconds, especially if the anchor B player, your AWPer, is making presence here as well. So he's making footsteps, he's spamming, he's flashing over. The short player is likely going to stop worrying about this angle because it's smoked and start worrying about this angle, where then the short player can almost likely assume that there's going to be someone facing the wrong direction when they come around here and get a free kill. Another way of obviously taking the B site is that the top mid player can just run up short with him while the the connector smoke is still up. This obviously again depends on how quickly the pick comes in. If this happens early in the round, you can use the smoke to your advantage. If not, then you can just let it rest and let it settle. So what I mean by let it rest is that if you don't capitalize on a pick, you can assume that after a certain amount of time, let's say 20 seconds, the CTs will generally fall back into a 2-2 setup, leaving mid. So because they've lost a player, one player is going to rotate over to the bomb site, and that usually will be the mid player. So the mid will be left open, so then a split is even easier to do after a certain amount of time. So if you don't want to initially capitalize on a pick, let's say there's a pick on A, you don't have to initially capitalize on that. If you're not set up, you don't feel comfortable, you'd rather use nades, things like that, you can just wait in these positions, wait until you can presume that there's likely going to be 2 on each site, and then just have the people that are mid just run up through connector timed with flashbangs over from A, and can win the round that way, knowing that you're going to take a 2-on-4, 2-on-3, any favoured number of engagements for the T's so that they can win the round. So mid is a very important avenue of Mirage, obviously, and at lower levels definitely people don't use it to its full effectiveness, and I think this is a very simple strategy with 4 smokes that can be used to take mid and give you lots of options later into the round.